Well, hello everybody and welcome. This is Lizzie and Justin from Thirdspace, and we are here for the 318th week of Turning Towards Life, and it's a great joy to be back again, doing this again, to be in this ongoing practice. Lizzie, thank you so much for being here with me and with all of us, and welcome to all of you who are here. To those of you who've been with us for a very long time, to those of you who are finding your way to us very recently, we're so glad to have you with us. And there are some other things that I very often say at the start, and I'm going to save them for the end. So if you're still with us at the end of this conversation, I'm going to say some things about how you can support us, and also some things about how you can join us in various different ways. But you can wait till the end of the conversation for that. But meanwhile, we're going to do what we always do, which is to start with a source which launches us off into a who knows where it's going to go kind of conversation. And Lizzie, you've brought this wonderful source to us this week. Thank you.
You're welcome. And Justin, I just want to say that we've had a little flurry of messages of support recently that we forward between us and look up in our emails. And it's so lovely when we get to hear from people. So please don't hesitate to email us on hello@turningtowards.life and tell us what it's like for you to listen. We love it. And if you wanted to leave a review, we look at those as well on any of the podcast platforms. But it's really meaningful to us to know what this is like for you. You know, we know that people are listening. We know that you're listening, but to hear actual language about the impact that it's having is really beautiful to us. So if you feel like reaching out, we'd love to hear from you. So this source is called The Healing by Alfred K. Lamotte, and it goes like this. This planet will not be healed by powerful politicians in big cities who spend trillions on a global strategy that never quite begins. They also burn much fuel. Earth will be healed by villagers who sing, by backyard gardeners like you, who walk more slowly right here, who feel the green through bare souls, speaking fewer words, cradling each other's anger like mothers, awakening the heirloom seeds of the heart.
The healing. This planet will not be healed by powerful politicians in big cities who spend trillions on a global strategy that never quite begins. They also burn much fuel. Earth will be healed by villagers who sing, by backyard gardeners like you who walk more slowly right here, who feel the green through bare souls, speaking fewer words, cradling each other's anger like mothers, awakening the heirloom seeds of the heart.
Thank you, Justin. So when I saw this piece of writing, Justin, I had been in a conversation with someone about someone being really, really powerful in the world and like possibly the most powerful person at this moment in time. And I thought, I don't really buy that the power lies with one person, the maximal power lies with one person. Like I just couldn't get with the program of the argument that that was true. And I was thinking how maybe power lies in the collective so much more than we ever really recognize. And then I saw this and felt so kind of the relief. I think that's one of the signs of a good turning towards life source is that my shoulders drop and I go, oh, there's some sanity for me. There's some kind of response in the powerlessness that I'm feeling about our world that makes sense to me and that I can find in our shared world, Justin, of human beings, every single one mattering and feeling the kind of grace of that, I suppose, and the kind of the countercultural feeling that we are all these magnificent worlds of being, and human being is that. And so when I read this, I thought, oh, yeah, I can feel that relief of maybe I'm a villager who sings and a person who gardens and walks more slowly to feel what it is to be alive. And also this thing about cradling each other's anger like mothers. I mean, just to talk about all the things we're angry about and take care of all the things we're angry about just seems to be, anger gets such a bad rap, but to welcome it all forward and say, well, what are we angry about? And then let's cradle that and see what it awakens in us. Seems to me to be a completely different invitation to sitting there chewing over the news, worrying, being anxious, not knowing what to do, being powerless. And I feel like, thank goodness that this dignifying approach, invitation to humanness is here for us, and that we, right where we are, can be empowered to be part of what healing means, rather than thinking, well, if I'm not in a position of structural power, positional power, I can do nothing at all. It's just not like that. We can do so much and we can be so much for one another. And I suppose that's the hopefulness of this for me, is like taking a breath and realizing my place in things, rather than feeling on the outside of everything that's happening and feeling like I can't do anything that would make a difference.
So much in here, Lizzie, in what you're saying, and in this source. I feel like I could take every line and ask some big questions about it. And I've got two parallel places where I'm beginning in response to what you've just said, and in response to what Alfred Lamott has written. So one is to say, I think that politics really matters. You don't have to look very far at countries where really bad things have happened because the politics allowed them to happen. The politics were a ground for things that really keep a society safe and together and grounded, unraveled because of the way that people in those positions of hierarchical structural power behaved. And so it may not be the case that the planet will be healed by powerful politicians. But it also seems to me that in a way, this is, I think I'm about to land in very similar place to the way that you've just said, that the story that I'm nothing to do with politics, it's that very powerful person, the person who's got the most power in the world, and they've got the power and I don't, who's over there, very quickly leads us into some very potentially very dark places if the story is I have no power, they have the power, I'm not part of this, they are, whatever happens they're going to do, and it's nothing to do with me. It seems to me that whole story very easily lands us in places which are very far from the possibility of the planet being healed. So we're all in it. We're all in it together, people who have structural power and people who don't, all that. And in a way, I suppose that's where this goes, which is actually none of it can be left up to them. We have to not see ourselves as separate from any of it. The moment that we separate ourselves, say that's nothing to do with whatever happens over there, is nothing to do with me, and that it is the case, I feel, and I suppose this is where I feel the sense of relief as well, which is that actually where all of these things begin is they begin with us. And that typically what's getting expressed over there is somehow actually just an expression of all of us. And so that's why the separating ourselves is so risky, because in a way, by pretending that politics has nothing to do with us, the way that we treat one another, the way that we care for one another, the way that we care for those close into us and across the street and on the other side of our city, and the moment that we start to make that separation in ourselves, that this is to do with me and this isn't to do with me, it's a bit of a convenient way of not having to feel things and not having to see things. So it's sort of protective in that way, but it really misses the point that it's up to us to create the kind of societies and the kind of world that we care about. It begins right here. And I think more usually politicians, the people with power, end up being an expression of all of us in some way. I mean, obviously there are cases where that's not the case, but and then in a way, regardless of what's happening there, the lives that we lead are the intimate lives between us, between the people that we meet, between us and the people that we meet, and whole worlds are made there. And there are so many stories. Because I feel very fortunate never to have grown up under a dictatorship or grown up in the middle of a war, or, I haven't yet experienced those things, and I wish not to. And there are so many stories of when there are difficult times, of how a society is made and remade and healed by the way somebody took care of their neighbor, or the way somebody looked after someone they met in the street. So I am really with you and really with Alfred Lamotte that the healing in the world actually comes through the way that we live our ordinary everyday lives. It's how we keep alive in ourselves love and care and dignity and courage, and they live in us and they live in between us, and they don't live in someone else's idea or any political slogan. They live right here in our hearts and in our bodies, and there's so much at any moment in time that we can do about it and we can do with it. It really is who we choose to be with one another, and who we choose to be with ourselves in almost every circumstance is right within our gift. So that's a source for me of great hope, and I know that there are many, many people in the world who are responding in these times, as people have done in many times, in the spirit that Alfred Lamotte is asking of us. And I think I want to say one other part just before finishing speaking for now, which is to wonder, and you started to get into this a little bit, Lizzie, but wondering what it is to cradle each other's anger like mothers. Because there's so much that so many of us humans feel angry about. And there's lots that we can do with our anger. We can turn it towards healing, or we can turn it towards destruction. We can turn it towards meeting one another, or we can turn it towards hating one another. We can use it to tune out, or we can use it to tune in. And it's such evocative language to cradle one another's anger, to take the anger of another person and to cradle it as a mother would cradle, which is very different from shouting it down or throwing it back or amplifying it. So I'm left very I suppose, of all of this little piece of writing, in this deep wondering about what that might mean and where it could take us.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, Justin. I can feel arising in me this question about, who do I need to be able to cradle another person's anger without feeling afraid, without feeling Like it's too much for me without feeling, and by the way, these are things I feel in the presence of anger. And then there are times when I'm learning to be the cradler of the anger too, both in myself and others. And what I know so far is that there is a way I can be bigger than it in whatever way it's manifesting now, but that it's also really necessary to do my own kind of, I guess, inner healing in response to it too, so that I can be a cradle for it rather than in reaction to it or making it, like you say, amplifying it because I lose it in the face of someone else's anger. And I was walking along yesterday, actually, Justin, and there were these two people having some kind of fight, two women, where there was two cars next to each other, and one was trying to get the other one to wind the window down because one had been beeping at the other. And I thought, oh my gosh, it's so easy for us to lose our cool about being in the wrong lane or something. It's not even like big thing, but it's so easy for us to be really, really angry with one another about not very much at all. And just is true, isn't it? Like there's lots of anger in the world. There's lots of us that are angry with things, with people close to us, with things far away, with big social injustices. And in order that we can actually face into those things and feel like anger really matters rather than we've got to squash it or push it away or say that it needs to just disappear, to be people who can, so I could say to you, Justin, you're really angry about this, which is maybe you've shared something that tells me you're angry or you're behaving in a way that shows me you're angry. And I can say, can you tell me more about that? Or I'm really interested in this anger that seems to be here. Can we talk some more? And what would it take for us to be in conversation about that? It's a completely different approach to me going, oh my God, Justin's really angry. I've got to shut this down, or I've got to walk away, or I've got to be angry back, or just being also in my own pure triggeredness at your anger. And so to cultivate the kind of nervous system that has the capacity to hold whatever reactivity I have, but also find the response that's really true for me feels really important. Whether we're parenting or doing whatever else in the world that belongs to us in our work or in our communities, in our faiths, in our whatever, wherever we are. And in between all of those places too, who do we need to be to cultivate curiosity in the face of reactivity, in the face of sometimes also being really wounded as well? How do I settle into and cultivate an identity that has the capacity that goes beyond whatever that reactivity is, so that I can both serve my own self in my own anger and my own process of the encountering the injustice in whatever world and whatever scale. Who do I need to be able to be with that and to hold it? And what environment do we have to create in order for that to be possible as well? So I feel like that's and then Alfred Lamott in the same sentence talks about awakening these seeds of our hearts. Like the anger and heartfulness are not far away from one another, because of course when we're angry about something, very, very often there's some profound care inside of it somewhere that very rarely gets discovered, because we're just triggering each other all the time and reacting to each other. And how do we make contact with the heart of things so that we can really speak about what matters and not get caught up in this table tennis match of angriness and angriness.
Yeah, whilst you were speaking, Lizzie, I was thinking about this again, about the way this writing raises questions about the political and the personal, and how in the wider public sphere, escalating anger is often the path that's taken, because it serves all kinds of purposes to do that. And then we get caught in this binary of either I've got to be angry, or I've got to squash my anger, or someone else's anger, going to pretend it's not there or make it go away, because there's no space to do the thing that you're talking about. And I was thinking about how one of the things that was so helpful for me to learn about anger is that anger is always to do with something we care about that's being threatened or violated, either actually or in our imaginations. So underneath it, there's always heart. Now, our hearts may be well placed or misplaced. Sometimes we're angry about things that really, the anger is a displacement of something else. It's because we're grieving, or we're worried, or we're longing, and it shows up as anger. And sometimes we're really angry about something, but what's under it is heartbreak. And it seemed to me that this I love this way that you've put them, of course, as Alfred Lamott's put them together, the cradling one another's anger and the seeds of the heart. That it takes both of those, but it also takes, and you were talking about this with cradling, like I think the kind of cradling like mothers that Alfred is talking about, it seems to me what any of us do who know how to meet a distressed little one is to meet the distress as real, but also to be a person who doesn't deliberately or inadvertently escalate the distress, that we can be ones who can help one another to come back into contact with one another and come back into the truth of our own hearts, whatever that may be, and that's where the work lies, which is so different to the tenor of the world, escalating, 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 escalating all the time, in which there is no resolution. All that happens is that our hurts get amplified without addressing the underneath of them, that we could, in many cases, we could take care of together. Mm. So that's why I am feeling at this point in our conversation so appreciative of what Alfred Lamott puts together here, like the whole of it, backyard gardening, which is tending to something very intimate and very close, being patient with it, not trying to change everything all at once, but knowing that you can change something that's right here, walking slowly, knowing that things take time. We have to pay attention, feeling the green through our bare souls, actually being people who will let ourselves feel stuff rather than try to mask what we don't want to feel by some other feeling, or by numbing out or yelling at one another or tuning out or distracting ourselves. Speaking less, listening more, maybe not being so certain about our rightness about anything, cradling each other's anger like mothers and awakening the seeds of the heart. I'm so with this that to the extent that we can practice these, cultivate these, take care, tend to all of these in ourselves and between ourselves and one another, is where so much of the healing that the world is desperate for comes from, and that we can't really leave it up to other people. It's not going to work out to go, if only those people over there would do all of this, then we'd be fine. We can't separate ourselves from it. It has to be the center of our work of our commitment as humans is to set the world between us in a way that will take care of what is most of value, and not wait for someone powerful to do it on our behalf, and not wait for someone far away to do it on our behalf.
You're talking, Justin, about politics and it being far away. I think it's really true for me that my politics has completely changed as I've done whatever healing I've been on, and it continues to change as I continue to heal. Because in what I say yes to and what I say no to, and what I advocate for and what I don't, has shifted. So I'm just really pleased in this moment to notice that there's like, I don't think the way I would say yes or no to something or vote for something is static. It's like I'm not fixed. I can feel my unfixedness. And when I learn more and when I tune in more and when I open myself more, the way I would think changes. It's not like my thinking stays the same and all of the rest of me is on a healing journey or something. It's not separate. So I'm making like a deeper connection between the whatever healing we are up to in our own selves has a massive impact on the world, because it changes the choices that we make and it changes the way that we feel connected or not to the planet and the earth. And I think that's another thing it's really easy to feel separate from, is this planet. Like as if we're like, it's just a kind of surface on which we're padding around, but it's nothing to do with us. But of course, the way we're relating to it is the problem. And so I'm feeling really hopeful that as humans, what is within our grasp is to be on these genuine journeys of reflection and inner curiosity and relational curiosity and what it is that we're supposed to be doing here and all of that stuff, because that really does change the way that we're relating to everything. And it's tangible. Like for me in my life, I can see the difference in me when some thing happens, and turning towards life is part of that. I come here with an intention to just keep on being changed. Like I look for sources because I want to be changed. I want my existence to be deepening and my awareness and my compassion to be expanding more, and for my relationship to the world to change in whatever way is meant to change. And somehow turning towards life and lots of other things too have direct impact on the way that I relate to the world, to the earth, to the planet, to politics, to my relationships, to parenting, to everything. So I'm really hopeful that it just feels true that that's a possibility for everyone. And I see it all the time, people suddenly messaging and saying, I haven't been kind of facing into the world for quite a while because I've been in a massive process because this happened and that happened, and I'm coming back afresh now and I've learned loads of things, and I now realize this. And I see that all the time, and that's happening to all of us, that there's these huge big openings and these terribly confusing times when we don't know what to do or which way is up. And many, many times we find a new way or a new story or a new set of understandings about what it means to be human that change our entire worldview and the way that we relate to everything. And it's really possible, and it happens all the time.
Well, I'm left with the new understanding that what we're talking about and what we're being invited into here by Alfred Lamott is really the question of who do we choose to be in these times. That's the thing that you're talking about that can change, and that it comes about by what we choose to practice and what we choose to hold in ourselves and how we choose to cradle one another. They're all choices available to us, no matter what the surrounding situation is. It's one of the unique gifts of being a human. It's also one of the unique perils of being a human, but it's certainly one of the unique gifts is that we get to play so much of a part in who we choose to be, in who we get to be. Maybe that's what this, in a way, Lizzie, this whole conversation, not just this one, but the 318-week version of this conversation is about in one way or another. Is it's us keeping on exploring the question about who we might choose to be and how to go about actively enacting those choices.
Mm. Yeah. Justin, I think we're about time, but you said at the beginning that you wanted to mention some things that you already mentioned. You always mention at the end.
I did,
You
yeah.
don't want to say goodbye until you've
Thank
done
you.
what the thing was that you wanted.
I wanted to say to anyone, so if you have stayed with us to the end of this conversation, firstly, thank you for staying with us to the end of the conversation. And maybe it's exactly the right time to say that there are some chances to learn with us. So Thirdspace, that this is an expression of, we have our Foundations of Coaching program coming up on the 11th and 12th of January that I am leading with our very dear friend and colleague, Nina. And really, Lizzie, you'll know this, that really the kind of questions we take up in that are about how to support ourselves and one another in these kind of questions.
Yeah.
So that's coming up, and you can find out about it at We Are Thirdspace on the Thirdspace website. And the other thing is, as well as many of you writing to us, it's been such a joy to find that some of you want to support us and support this endeavor, which we're very committed to bringing to the world for free so it can be very widely available. And if you want to support us, you can head over to turningtowards.life and you'll find a support us button there, which gives you an opportunity to buy us a coffee or buy us a meal or support us over the long term. And we'd so welcome that. It really helps this to keep going, and it's so fabulous to feel the support that's around us in that as well. So I wanted to say both of those before we ended.
Thanks, Justin. So everyone, thank you for being with us. Justin, thank you for this. Thank you, Alfred Lamott, for saying this. And we will be back next week at the same time, live on Facebook, and sending ourselves into all the podcast world as well once we've completed the recording of this. So we'll see you next week. Thank you, everyone.
Everyone.